Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Oh, thank you for the response. Hi, my name's Peter Lafort. I'm a GM at Microsoft focused on M365. My team is responsible for a lot of the content, learning, and training experiences across the Surface, Windows, and Office family of products. So for instance, when you open up a Surface for the first time, there's a Getting Started guide. Somebody on my team writes that. When you first open a Surface in your out-of-box experience, somebody on my team helps with that overall content experience, both the writing and the videos that show up. When you're using Office, many of the in-content are in-app experiences that you see where content shows up in the application. Someone on my team does that, and the videos that go with that as well. Office templates, if you're familiar with those, our team produces that as well. The Windows themes, desktop themes that you see across our Windows line, and so on. Now, a lot of our team also is focused on the materials that you're probably looking at today on MS Learn if you're an IT administrator. So if you're taking those MS Learn certs, people on my team are responsible for a lot of the content that you go through. Also, if you're trying to train your end users on M365, my team creates the video training content for that. So we have over 20 of my team members here at Ignite. So if you have questions about that, that's great. We're happy to take those questions, and some of those team members are in the room here. This talk is completely different than that, though. But it is related, I think, in a fairly interesting way. Like many people in the room, the cloud has been kind of a very interesting journey for us. If you think of Office about 10 years ago, it was fairly straightforward. We shipped it on 1 or 2 platforms every 2 to 3 years. So the content team in Office had plenty of time to go ahead and create that content. They worked closely with program management. They understood the features, the specifications. They had plenty of time to plan and write the documentation. And then they had another 2 to 3 years to go ahead and make the next version of it. Well, what happened throughout about 5-10 years ago was that as we moved to more of a cloud-based, as a service-based software suite, we started updating more frequently, maybe more frequently than some of you in this room would like, right? We update now monthly on Office, and so our content team is constantly trying to keep up with the product releases and make sure that you have the right content you need in order to deploy and use our solutions. We also decided, well, we're a cross-platform company now, so now we ship on 5 to 6 different platforms. So the combinatorics of that number of platforms plus the frequency increase of the number of times that we ship made it very difficult for our content team to keep up with all this churn. And so, the initial reaction is, we'll just grow the team by 5 or 6 times, right? Increase the full-time headcount working on content in our division by 5 to 6 times. And that wasn't really a possibility for us. So we had to reinvent ourselves. We had to come up with a different way of addressing the needs of our customers, you. And so we had a very simple premise. We feel very lucky that we have over 1 billion customers who use Office. And we had a hypothesis about 4 years ago that, if just a small percentage of those customers were experts, and we could reach out into that community of experts, perhaps we can directly engage individuals and have them help us help you. We could pay them and so on. So we went out and we found all those great Office communities that probably some of you have seen. And then we went to our procurement, our HR, and our legal department and said, we found these great experts out there. Can we directly work with them? And can you guess what the answer was? No. It was no. You can't. They weren't an approved vendor. They didn't have an official contract with us. They weren't part of a managed service company. And many of these experts loved the flexibility of just working when they wanted to work on what types of projects they wanted to work on. But we had no mechanism of directly working with them. So we said there's got to be a way. And so through taking some risks within our company and also looking at the types of platforms that exist to help you work with individual freelancers, we built a program. And I'm going to share some details about that program today in this session. It's helped us scale. It's given us access to talent we never had access to before. And it's given us the ability to really create better experiences across our suite. In that journey, what we found is there are all these companies out there that sometimes are called gig economy companies, freelance companies. Sometimes they're called the human cloud vendor platform companies. But we found tens of millions of freelancers on a variety of platforms in the cloud that were accessible by anyone on the planet. And we were just amazed that that existed. So we built relationships with the executive staffs of all of those companies. So if you're familiar with Upwork or Freelancer or TopTal, TopCoder, we've worked with those teams to better understand the talent that's in the cloud and how do you access it in a secure and compliant way. And so we're on that journey. We're on that journey. Now, as part of that journey, we decided to work with the Harvard Business Review folks to do a joint study on the evolution of the workforce and how it's going to change over the next 20 to 30 years. We interviewed 600 IT and business professionals, and we've got a lot of data about that, and it really correlates very interestingly with a lot of the human cloud work that we're doing today. So hopefully at the end of the session, you'll better understand a perspective on the future of work, the human cloud, freelancing, and what it means to everyone here who's probably a full-time employee in some company. So, as part of that Harvard Business Review study, the first thing that popped out is that the workplace is in the midst of a transformation. It's unprecedented. The rate of change is increasing. A couple of years ago, people were alarmed when they heard the half-life of any skill was about 5 years. Okay? More recent studies show in some industry the half-life of any skill is 18 months. That's terrifying. You know, how does any organization, how does any individual stay up to speed and remain competitive when the world is changing so quickly? It's the primary finding of this study. What was the reason for this? What's causing these changes? Well, they really have 4 key things that were identified in the study. And by the way, the study's up here. You will be the first people outside of Microsoft to have access to it. So at the end of the summit, you please come up and you can grab it. But the key aspects that are causing this change, there really are 4. 1, mobile and connected systems, which now people have the ability to connect and collaborate with each other like they've never been able to do before. And there's devices out there also that are generating an enormous amount of data. Just to give you a sense of how many devices are connected to the internet, it's about 3.3 billion smartphones connected to the internet today. That's about 43% of the world's population. There's 4.5 billion users on the internet today, and that's an 83% increase in just 5 years. Okay, and billions of additional devices are connected to the internet every day through the IoT. You might have heard Satya say in about 5 years, we expect about 500 billion devices regularly connected to the internet. So this is just an amazing phenomenon, and it's creating this explosion of data. There's data everywhere now. The vast majority of it is unstructured. The vast majority of it today is also unanalyzed. So companies and people are trying to gain insights, trying to understand this data, try to make sense of this data. To give you a sense of how much data is generated on a daily basis, it's about 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every day. That's 10 to the 18th. Okay, massive. That's almost unfathomable. If you might have heard Satya also mention, within a couple of years, we expect the amount of data generated every year, it's going to be 175 zettabytes, which I defy anyone to actually conceptualize. It's so huge. So with all of this information that's out there that's largely unanalyzed, we think that there's a great opportunity to make sense of that data to provide predictive insights and also to help you grow your business and show business value. And so that's where the emergence of AI and ML is really taking off. The ability to take that data, analyze it, make insights from it, and have some predictive intelligence moving forward. And you'll find that the majority of, if you've been at Ignite all week, I mean, if you look at all of the Microsoft applications and services we're talking about, they're being infused with intelligence and AI as fast as we can do it because it adds business value. When in the study, we asked what technology was the most important for business professionals and IT professionals moving forward in the next 20 years, 72% of them said it was AI and ML, outstripping things like IoT and also the cloud itself. So if you're not already jumping in on the bandwagon of AI, trying to analyze lots of data and trying to understand how your users are creating that data, you might be at a competitive disadvantage already. And then the last area which is causing all of this growth and change are those millennials, right? Those millennials. Right now, the millennials actually have the largest percentage of any segment of the workforce. Within 5 years, they will be the majority of the workforce. And millennials have a different view on empowerment, what work means, how they want to work, when they want to work. As an example, in the study, 75% of millennials believe that they want more remote work, and 50% of them believe it will make them more productive. 43% of millennials in the US have said they've done freelancing. Now wait till the next generation, Generation Z. They're just entering the workforce today. Those 18 to 22-year-olds who have done work already, over 50% of them have done freelancing in the US. So attitudes towards work are changing. All of this is conspiring against traditional norms. And so either you look at these things as terrifying or it's a great opportunity to grow your business. It's your choice. Another thing that came out of the study, not surprisingly, that most of the business leaders felt they're not prepared for the future. How should technology be infused into the lives of their workers? You might have seen some of the studies today or last couple of days talking about the flow of work. Technology can be a great distraction. You could be in the flow, in the zone, and then if you're distracted, it could take you over 20 minutes to get back into that. How can we make technology work for you versus be a distraction? Companies are asking that. How do you embrace new methods of communication, collaboration, and access to talent? I think you've heard Teams a lot at this conference. Slack before it, and now Teams are opening the doors for new methods of collaboration and communication. And modern talent systems are now just beginning to enable organizations to find new types of remote talent. So how do companies leverage these new tools, processes, and access to talent? It's something that a lot of people are asking. And this one is also very interesting. How do you keep the business and employees open to new ways of thinking, working, and learning? As change accelerates, all of a sudden things like culture become key. In the past, you might have thought of culture as kind of an afterthought, kind of squishy, but actually now it's key because employees and organizations need to learn and adapt more quickly than ever before. They do need to have a learning mindset. So how can this all be done? Again, these are kind of the findings from the study. And this one I think is pretty interesting to me at least. A lot of companies are asking Microsoft how we can help their organizations survive first and then thrive during all this transformation. Microsoft's been around about, 45 years now? And we've done pretty well. I think people think that we're pretty good at creating application tools and services that help empower organizations and individuals to achieve more. But over the last 5 years, I think the surprise has been, the cultural change that Satya has driven in our company has actually enabled us to work in new ways, hire new talent, be more diverse, be more inclusive, create a sense of belonging as an employee or a part of the ecosystem around us. So companies are asking us too, how did you do that? How did you make this latest transformation? So I'll jump to the summary of the study right here. There are kind of 4 key findings with one underlying theme across all 4. The first one is that a view that technologies like AI and ML will eventually lead to long-term creation as the technology will work seamlessly in the background to help workers perform actions more seamlessly. So I think a lot of people, you hear studies about AI taking away jobs. In this study that we have, actually the IT professionals, especially the technical ones, didn't think that it was going to be a big problem in their organization. They thought it would transform the type of work users had to do, but it would up-level kind of the type of work that they did. It would get rid of some of the mundane tasks. So at least, I know there's controversial views on that, but at least in this study, that's what these 600 IT professionals thought. Number 2, I believe that technology will energize the workforce, enabling people to collaborate more efficiently and effectively between tasks. Again, that kind of in the flow, you want to create a set of outcomes through a series of tasks. How do you string those tasks together seamlessly? And we believe that technology will be everywhere, but it will disappear in the background, enable more natural and productive experiences. That was the second finding. The third one is that digital technology will make information more readily available and widely available to all the workers in your platform. And so when they have access to more data, they will make more strategic decisions. And some believe that this will eventually lead to the flattening of organizations. It'll be less hierarchical than it is today because everyone in the organization will have access to the things that are important to make big decisions. Interesting outcome. And the fourth one, this is the one I will spend the most on in this particular talk, is something that's called dynamic talent networks. And this is where we believe teams of tomorrow will look vastly different than they do today. And leaders anticipate that the organizations will look to build teams with more diverse experiences, skills, and perspectives. And future workforces will be more blended, more remote, and integrate all types of workers, including freelancers. So I want to now dive into what do we mean by dynamic talent networks. Well, here's an example. You can look at all the different types of categories of workers that might contribute to a project, contribute to something that you're working on. And I would say most talent management systems today are really good at you working with other employees in your company. They also might be okay at working with contractors through a managed service vendor. They might even help you work with interns who come and go. But look at the rest of the group there. You know, how well do they work, do talent systems help you work with alumni? People who might have great skills that you might want to leverage from time to time. How often do your talent systems allow you to access talent that's in the cloud? Freelancers. And today, we're thinking that this needs to improve. At Microsoft, we're doing it, and we think other companies can benefit from this as well. This will unlock agility, and this will give you access to talent that you never had before. So, a type of dynamic talent network is what we call the human cloud. First of all, how many people in this room have heard the term human cloud before? Okay, that's less than 50%. That's not surprising. So what is the human cloud? The human cloud are platforms that facilitate the connection of users to workers for services managed through an online digital platform. So anyone who's used Uber or Lyft, you've participated in the human cloud. That Uber or Lyft driver is in the cloud. You have a smartphone. You're connected to that individual through an online application, and then they provide services for you. That's a classic example of a business-to-consumer human cloud vendor. Now, business-to-consumer include companies like Lyft, Instacart, DoorDash, if you've used any of those. But there's also a growing group of human cloud vendors that we call B2B vendors, which include Upwork, TopTal, TopCoder, WorkMarket. There's dozens of these. And on these platforms, there are tens of millions of freelancers who do work that companies like yours and companies like ours can benefit from. Now, the human cloud platform today, overall market size is about $126 billion, growing at about a 43% year-over-year growth. So it's growing quite large. The B2B portion of this, again, this is where businesses can provide, keep value to freelancers. It's about $8 billion, growing 22% year-over-year. And that is accelerating. In in 2017, it was about 19% growth. So we're seeing that there's this acceleration of workers in the cloud that can help businesses get work done. And if you look at the type of work that is being done on these platforms, the majority of it is IT or creative work that, again, companies like everyone in this room probably can benefit from. Software engineering, for instance. Upwork has about $1.8 billion flowed through it last year. Half of that was software development. These are companies saying we need software developers going to the cloud, working with freelancers, creating these virtual groups, and leveraging that talent. It's pretty impressive. Creative talent, such as research, design, something that we use, content creation, localization. The talent is out there. So what are some of the benefits and concerns of the human cloud? Well, some of these benefits I think are very interesting because they mirror many of the benefits that we might have talked about 5 to 10 years ago about the cloud. Benefits include agility, the ability to access talent quickly. One of the biggest benefits about working with somebody in the cloud is that you can get to them much quicker than a traditional staffing firm, and we'll show more data on that. Second, scale gives the ability to scale yourself more broadly. It's not just the FTEs in your room, it's the world at your disposal. Access to specialization. We do this a lot at Microsoft. For instance, I'll just give you one example. Infographics. People love infographics. It turns out it takes a specialized skill set to create great infographics. Now, we have great designers at Microsoft, full-time employees. We hire vendors. They do great design work. But we would never, I don't think, hire a full-time employee just to do infographics. So by using Upwork and by using their platform, we found the world's best infographic artist. He's in Italy, at least we think he's the best. And he is highly efficient, he gets the work done, and we think it's the best possible result we can get. It gives us more agility, and it actually even costs less. So this access to specialization and some of the cost benefits are all there. Some of the concerns, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room would probably have these types of concerns: trust, security. How do you trust these individuals? IP, PII, security, privacy, quality. How can how is this talent good enough for the type of work that you need done? Interop with current systems. So many freelancers don't have access to your internal network. So if you need them to work with you, how do you get them to work effectively? And the last one is this responsible social impact. You hear about this a lot, where while these freelancers, are they opting in to be a freelancer because they want that flexibility, they want more flexibility in how they work, or is it because they're forced to, because there's no other opportunity for them? And then what type of worker protections do they get? So these are things that we're looking at and we're trying to understand. If I asked you 5 years ago, how many of you had used a human cloud vendor, probably would have been fairly small. 5 years from now, it'll be interesting to see. So I'm going to ask a quick question. How many of you have done a B2B human cloud kind of interaction? This is with Upwork, Freelancer, something like that. Okay, a fairly small percentage, not actually that much smaller than the people who said they've done B2C. How many people have been a freelancer in this room? Okay, even a smaller percentage. It'd be really interesting to ask the same set of questions 5 years from now and see how it changes. Just like 5 or 10 years ago, if I asked how many people had adopted the cloud and benefited from it, it would have been quite small. I remember Ignite about 5 years ago. That was kind of the big push to get people to the cloud. And now it looks like we're largely over that hurdle. So human cloud, it's a little bit different. We're talking about people. We're not talking about CPUs and GPUs, but some of the same benefits exist as far as scaling your organization and having you be more productive. So here's some more data. This is from analysts, research. Take a look at this. McKinsey says that it could add 2.7 trillion to the overall global GDP. Right? More freelancers than non-freelancers by 2027. 40% of 6,500 executives think that they're going to increase their freelance talent within their organization over the next 5 years. And then by Upwork, I think there's about 56 million freelancers in the US, up by just, there's only 3.7 in 2014. So analysts and research show there's some growth here. Let's look at more data. Well, the VC market is also responding. There's been hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars invested in various human cloud vendors over the last couple of years. Those trying to capitalize get early mover advantage on what they perceive to be something that's growing. So VC market. It's not just the VC market, it's also companies. We're beginning to see this. TurboTax Live I think in December, January of last year, they introduced the ability to talk to an on-demand tax expert in the product. So you're one click away from talking to a freelance expert to help you with your taxes, which I think is pretty ironic because Intuit got into the business of creating software so you didn't have to talk to a tax expert, and now they're bringing them back directly into the software experience. Just this week, Open for Business was announced by LinkedIn, which connects small businesses with freelancers. So that's something that's now part of the LinkedIn experience. Both Google and Amazon now give you the ability to connect directly with freelance experts to help you with work on their platforms. So we're seeing lots of patterns here. There's one more that I don't have on the slide, but I'll call out. How many people here use Excel? Okay, good number of you. How many people have tried to use the VLOOKUP function in Excel? Okay, great. How many people think it's the most intuitive feature in Excel? Okay, there's a couple strange people in the back. But Excel, which is the world's #1 development platform, VLOOKUP is a complicated thing, and we know that because we create the help topic for it. Actually, Jeff right here does. And so we know the millions of people that go to that help topic every month. And we try to provide better help. We give feedback to the Excel team on how to make VLOOKUP better. But we tried an experiment which anyone in this room can try, I think, today. We now give you the ability to connect to a freelance on-demand expert in Excel. And this expert will actually, if you give them control, they will take control of your spreadsheet, they will make the changes, they'll chat with you, and then they'll send it back to you. So we're experimenting and getting these experts directly into basically our products to help you be more productive. We think AI is great. We think automation is great. We also think on-demand experts are great. And so we're going to experiment with that. And so I think only 2 people in the room would not benefit from that feature. Okay, some more data, which is really interesting to look at. Traditionally, over time, you would expect when unemployment is high that labor force participation would be low, right? That's typically what this has shown over time. This bottom curve is unemployment rate. The top is the labor force participation. And usually they're kind of fighting each other. For the first time, they're correlated. It's a very interesting trend, meaning in the US at least, unemployment is at an all-time low, practically, but labor force participation is dropping. There's something about, these are people who are eligible to work in a conventional way, and they're opting not to. It's the first time we've seen that. Interesting. Here's more data. Over the last 4 to 5 years, we found that vacancy slot, filling a vacant position has increased by almost 30%. So we have all this technology around us, but still filling positions is getting harder and harder. Also, if you look at the methods in which people are actually getting jobs, their primary method of getting jobs are by the methods that don't scale. In other words, employee referrals still are number 1, and you can also look like company sourced is number 2. And these online marketplaces are doing well, like Indeed and LinkedIn and so on. But you can see that the number of applicants in those platforms and how they're getting jobs is quite low. So something's not working in the labor market today. What is going on? Well, interestingly enough, this was all predicted 82 years ago, believe it or not. Ronald Coase, he was an economics genius. He won the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences back in 1991. And he wrote a paper in 1937, which predicts firms will be less efficient at coordinating labor, thus causing a shift outside the firm. And in that paper, he predicts that the labor environment driving the human cloud today, firms will be less efficient in organizing labor, and 2, employee expectations of labor workforce participation are changing. This is all happening right now. So he got the what correct, he got the why correct, he didn't understand how it was going to happen. I believe there are 3 things that are causing this to happen. 1 is the cloud, which enables a people marketplace. 2 is everyone is connected to the cloud, so they have access to those people in the cloud. And 3, AI. AI does the expert matching, so you can find the right person to help you. These conditions are happening right now. So we believe we're at an interesting tipping point with how work is going to happen and how people are going to be employed. And again, predicted basically 82 years ago. I'll give another practical kind of personal view on this. I worked on Visual Studio for years. I was a product unit manager for the Visual Studio IDE. I know Anders Heilsberg. He's the father of C#. He's a technical fellow. I would consider him a friend. I also know Sam George, who heads up our efforts on IoT. If I wanted to find a C# developer who was good at IoT development, I would go on Upwork first. I would go on GitHub. I wouldn't go and talk to those individuals, not because I don't want to bother them, but our HR systems and their knowledge base is not nearly as good as going outside the company. So how did that happen? How did all of a sudden, is it easier to find people outside your company than it is within? And maybe that's just Microsoft because we're a large company, but I imagine some of you are in large companies as well. So there's kind of this inverse situation occurring where actually accessing the worldwide talent is easier than accessing the talent in a large company. Something has to change. So what does the labor market look like today overall? You can take a look at this. In 2018, the overall global labor spend was about $45 trillion. 10% of that was the contingent labor workforce. So these are like freelancers, independent contractors, vendors. Now of that, the human cloud, the total human cloud is 126 billion. And then the type of work that happens with corporations, freelancers who do work for corporations, is about 8 billion. Highly skilled workers working with corporations like ours. It's about 8 billion. So it's kind of a grain of sand in a large bucket, but it's growing large, at a large rate. So it'll be interesting to see how this grows over the next 5 years. but it's something that I think everyone in this room has to take a look at, because employees, the next generation employees, have grown up working with freelancers. They've grown up, using Uber, using Lyft, using Instacart. They've grown up expecting more flexibility. They've grown up connected to the internet. And when they enter the workforce, they're going to have different expectations on flexibility and what they want. We think this will grow. So what are the barriers for having it grow more quickly than it already has? Well, we think there are 4. One is awareness. When I asked how many people were aware of the human cloud, not a lot of people in the room were, even though there's tens, if not hundreds of millions of freelancers out there available to you in the cloud today. So there's a demand problem. Security and compliance is a huge thing. How can you trust individuals that maybe you don't know, other than through some reputation system on some platform? That's important. Job definition. When you hire an employee or a vendor, you can kind of make up the job on the fly, right? You hire an FTE, go work on this project. You can be kind of loosey-goosey on figuring out the exact role, the job, the task. But when you hire a freelancer, you have to have precision in what you want them to do, because typically it's for a fixed length of time, and you want to be as highly efficient as you can with it. So actually breaking apart jobs into discrete tasks is something that we're working on, but that's something that also needs to improve. And the last one is policy. Depending on what country you're in, if you're not a full-time employee, your rights aren't that great. What are the worker protections? What's the social safety net for you? So these are things that are keeping the human cloud, growing at a faster rate. But we expect that all of these are things that are solvable problems over time. So what did we do? Well, we leaned in. So 2 years ago, we started working with Upwork. My team first, and then we've expanded to all US employees in Microsoft. So in that, we've had over 300 employees from 25 companies, or business groups, I should say, create over 4,500 projects, working with 1,400 freelancers in 90 companies, or countries. One of the key lessons we've learned from this is that we've been able to acquire the talent and get them working much faster than traditional methods. 5 days, which is about 70% faster than our traditional vendor pool. And the quality, this is when an employee rates the freelancer, on average is 4.9 plus out of 5. I think it's about 4.93. So we've learned a lot. And the types of projects we've done, some of them have been software development. So actually there's a learning pathways solution that we're talking about here at Ignite, which allows you to take a customized SharePoint solution and create end user training for your customer, your employee base, and that was largely done by freelancers. I mentioned our infographics. That's done. We do some content, we do some localization, design work. But I also mentioned that we do templates. And I think most people in here have used Office templates. So why don't I show you actually behind the scenes how we develop Office templates using freelancers.
Templates are back. We know that customers download templates 68 million times in a given month worldwide.
When you start an Office application, you see templates. Templates are a great way for us to advertise the capabilities of our product.
So when somebody opens up one of our Word, Excel, or PowerPoint products, they see those templates and it affects their perception of how modern the Office brand is. Previously, we've been a very small team, and in order to create templates, it took quite a bit of time.
The ask was produce several hundred new templates. So that's where the gig economy comes in.
So one of the things that a freelance team enables us to do is to scale up quickly and to find expertise that we wouldn't normally have available on our team.
It's all about depth of talent, and of course it's cost effective.
We have a great working relationship with our virtual team. It's been a great story using our Microsoft products to collaborate as a virtual team.
It's been cool to work with the team, I think in 5 different continents, and just make this all happen.
We have dedicated project managers in gig. They go and get the people, and the people come from wherever.
I'm in Central Ohio. My co-project manager is in Atlanta, Georgia. And then we've got freelancers throughout the states. We've got, I think, one in South Africa. I think there's one in Russia.
Compared to a traditional team, we're able to bring people in and roll people off and scale with the right kind of resources relatively quickly. Working with a virtual freelance team is a whole new way of working. We could never have accomplished what we are accomplishing right now in our old way of working.
Okay, so we've updated thousands of templates over the last year and a half using this new way of working. And a lot of the video training that you see from us too, now we're incorporating freelance talent. So, what have we done? We've created the Freelance Toolkit. And the Freelance Toolkit is basically the best practices that we've learned in working with freelancers over the last 2 years, and we packaged it into a solution template which is available for you for free. It's available on docs.microsoft.com, and it shows you how to integrate SharePoint and Teams and Planner and Power BI into a manner that allows you to coordinate and scale freelance programs within an enterprise. So here's a little quote from Flexera. It's a software development company. And you can take a look at how they've used, it just provided a nice little quote there, but there's 4 major elements of the solution that they've used. The first one is they create a communication site which allows all employees in the company to know about the freelance program. The second one is it gives you methods and capabilities of integrating and communicating with freelancers within teams. The third area is with Power BI, it allows you to do research and reporting on how well those freelancers are doing. And then the fourth one is there's a whole set of business processes which will be customized for your company. Using Flow and other mechanism allows you to create the right workflows to make sure that everything is done in a compliant way. Here's just a screenshot of the Freelance Toolkit. So when you deploy it, it's actually a provisioned modern SharePoint site. So we'll have it so it's just a one-click deployment. But this is what you get out of the box. It gives information about how to get started with the freelance program. Here's a sample intake form. So if an employee wants to work with a freelancer, there's the first start, which gets them into the system. Now this, after they complete this, can kick off a workflow. And in our case, what it does is the workflow includes them taking training, that then they have an assessment at the end to make sure that they understand what's available to do with a freelancer and what's not. And then it provisions them effectively on Upwork. And so then they get a notification from Upwork, which welcomes them to the system, and then they can start working with freelancers. And again, this is completely customizable based on the workflow that you have, and Upwork also works with you on making this possible. Then from there, we can actually integrate the ability to reach out to a freelancer directly within Teams. And so in this case, you're seeing the Upwork UI directly within the Teams environment. And then you have access to talent. Now in this case, the way we use it at Microsoft, we've created talent pools. These are, for instance, we have an alumni talent pool, so we have direct access to people who used to work at Microsoft. We trust them a lot, so we give them access to more types of projects because we have some relationship with them. We've also curated talent pools with Upwork to make sure we're getting the best possible talent in different domains. And again, with Teams, we can integrate a lot of this experience directly into the tools that people are already using. This is just showing you, we have case studies that if you download the toolkit, we can work with us and we'll show you case studies from Microsoft like what you just saw with the templates, but there's many more. We find that data science is actually an area that's used a lot in Upwork for freelancing related projects. Here is just another area we're just showing you where we're adding a freelancer directly to a Teams channel. So with guest access in Teams, you can bring in freelancers from the outside into your environment, and then they have access just to the resources that you want them to have access to. And when you're done with the project, actually with Upwork even, when you complete the project, their access is revoked. Okay, we have other things to help people figure out how to collaborate with freelancers. So we have some videos and training to make sure you understand how to best communicate with them in the context of Teams. And then we have the ability within Teams and what we use the task fabric for to connect tasks, and you can assign tasks to freelancers or any other members of your group. So again, you can really bring in these people from the outside and become a virtual team member in a relatively virtuous way. So what's next with the Freelance Toolkit? We're improving this to make it more self-service. In other words, we're trying to eliminate all the friction it is to work with a freelancer. Many people within a company using Teams, that experience is well understood, but when you want to work with somebody outside, there still is some friction, and we're working on that. The SharePoint provisioning site just went live, so then you'll be able to just download this entire package to your environment and then start customizing it. We also include a plugin for Power BI, so you can connect to Upwork. And then we're going to do deeper Teams integration. This is something we'll be spending a lot of time on to really make sure that when you want to work with freelance talent, that you have a clear and understandable way of how it's going to work in the context of Teams. So popping up just a level. That's some work we're doing in the near term to help you just start experimenting with freelancing. So what's our overall role here at Microsoft? This is where we think about a lot. We think we can provide great new opportunities to increase productivity. I mentioned the Excel example, where we're going to try to increase productivity by connecting you to experts. We think we can do a lot more of that across our product line. Imagine someday you're in PowerPoint and you want somebody to help you with that presentation. You just hit connect to an expert. That would be pretty cool, I think. So you might see things like that in the future. We also think we can create new economic opportunity for people who maybe don't have the opportunity that they want. Maybe they are an expert in Excel and they want to work from home during certain periods of the day. We want to give them the opportunity to benefit from work, from their expertise. How do we help customers with that signal? Well, if you're in a corporation and now you have your employees connecting to freelancers, there's an incredible signal that could be gathered from that. And we want to make sure that you have access to that signal so you understand the type of work that's going on. And how do we ensure that signal is collected by you and the data that's in that signal is treated with the utmost respect? I think you'll find that some companies, when they see signal from customers, they like to grab that signal and somehow monetize it. And in our world, we want to make sure that any signal that's gathered is something that benefits you. So how do we ensure that this is all ethical and trustworthy? That's something that's key for us. I mean, I think you'll understand that Microsoft, we treat all of security and compliance in the utmost priority in the company, and we want to make sure that when we're talking about workers, especially freelancers, that we're helping them be successful and that we're following all the rules that exist in the various countries around the planet. So when we look at all of this work, we are faced with a question like, what's Microsoft's role? Do we even help accelerate this work? And we think it's going to happen with or without us. We think the human cloud's going to grow. And what we also believe is that over the last 15 years, we've seen some technology companies create incredible technology which has had mass impact around the world, but they haven't thought carefully enough about the social impact of that technology. So we're looking at the human cloud very carefully. We care very deeply about making sure it grows in an ethical, a trustworthy way, a secure way, and that provides economic opportunity for everyone. So, call to action. There's some very practical things you can do now. The Harvard Business Review papers are up here. Please grab one. There's a red one and a green one. There's also a little pamphlet for Upwork if you want. Staffing industry associates, they have a great paper that kind of talks about the gig economy, the human cloud, gives all the demographics about it, learn who the key players are, what their expectations are. The freelance toolkit you can download today. It's on docs.microsoft.com. I mentioned briefly about defining job tasks. Microtasking is really important. So a peer of mine, Jamie Teven, she's the chief scientist for E&D. She's done a lot of work on micro-productivity, and it's good work for some people in this room to read. Reach out to our partners, including Upwork and BTG, that's Business Technology Group. These are basically the first freelance companies that we're working with at Microsoft. And we're working closely with them to make sure it's enterprise scale and it meets all of our compliance processes. So these are the two companies that we're experimenting with today, and we've had good luck to date. Attend the Human Cloud focus groups tomorrow morning. If you're interested in this space and you're trying to do freelance work, if you are interested in this, some members of my team are having a roundtable, and we'd love to talk to you more. So if you're interested, come see us out after this session's over, and we'll sign you up for that. And last but not least, if you want to actually use the freelance toolkit, use this AKA MS Go Freelance. There's an individual on my team, his name's Matt Matola. He's a great guy, and he'll help white glove it in your organization. We've kind of engaged 70 companies already, and he's a good individual to work with, and he can also share in more of a one-on-one setting how we've implemented it across Microsoft. So, at the end of the day, There is a quote that I like that Stefan Carousel, who's the CEO of Upwork, what he likes to say. He says, "The future is here, it is now, it's just not evenly distributed." There are many companies doing this already. And so if you're not, it's something I think you should be aware of. So the question I have for you is, where are you at on that distribution curve? And where do you think you need to be in order to be competitive and thriving in the future? Okay, thank you very much.